Good afternoon. Welcome to American Exceptionalism with Susan Swift and myself, Kevin Fobbs. Today, we're going to be talking with Karen Anderson. She's an angel mom, and she's fighting for America's security. As we know, Susan, the tragedy that angel moms and families and dads across America are feeling right now is horrible. It's despicable. Thousands of Americans are being killed needlessly each year by illegal aliens who have crept, crawled, climbed over fences, walls, have been transported in trucks, vans, cars, and in trunks even, and swam across the nation's border. The end result, of course, has been hundreds of thousands of assaults, robberies, drug deaths, and murders of innocents that have plagued far too many families for far too long, while liberal Democrats continue to ignore the death of the innocent. And our guest, Susan, one thing I wanted to make before we started is to focus on Mark, her son, who died on December 30th, 2005. His fourth son was born 2 days later on January 1st, 2006. It's horrible. And his brother is now taking care of that. And Karen's going to talk a little bit about that too. So when the president talks about this as an actual emergency, and it's a needless crime, because these individuals, that by the hundreds of thousands, if they were not here, those families would not have suffered that loss. And so today we're going to be talking with Karen Alexander on American Exceptionalism.
And just to remind people what an angel mom or an angel dad or an angel family is, these are families, mothers and fathers, sisters, brothers, who have lost a family member as a direct result of illegal immigrant crime. These are deaths that should not have occurred. Mark Stenberg, who is Karen Anderson's son, should never have died. He should not have been killed on December 30th, 2005. He was killed by an illegal alien who came here illegally. He's broken the law to get here, and he killed somebody here. That should never have happened if we had a proper border, if we had proper border security. I'm not blaming border security. Nobody is. What we're saying is Democrats are continuing to thwart the ability of our government to keep its citizens safe. And that's what an angel family is somebody who's been the victim of Democrat policy, frankly, but they're very specifically, they're people who have been victims of illegal immigrants who've come over here. These are criminals, imported criminals, invaders who've come here and killed their children, their father, their mother, their family members. And I wish, honestly, we never, ever had an angel mom ever to talk to ever again. I wish we never had angel parents or anyone, because that would mean that they would have all of their children and their loved ones back together. I think it's an absolute disgrace that there is such a thing, that we have an angel mom. I mean, they are not disgraceful. It's a national disgrace that we're having to discuss the fact that we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these families. One is too many. And yet here we are. And I know we've talked to angel moms before, and this is another angel mom, and I'm sorry she's an angel mom. Her name is Karen Anderson. Welcome to the show, Karen.
Hi. Thank you for having me. Thanks for having me. Boy, you said it spot on with your intro.
Explain to people who might not really understand the issue that you're living. What happened to your son Mark in December? How did this all come about?
Well, my son and his younger brother had a construction company in Seattle, and they worked it for about 2 years. And then my younger son was in a really bad car accident. So they shut that construction company down, and Mark went on to work for other construction companies, but he was very good at his job. And he went to work for a company called B&K Builders and Crane Service. And the owner was Bart Nelson. And the job foreman was Joe Ross, who was a known alcoholic. Anyway, they hired my son, and they were paying him $35 an hour, and this is back in 2005. So, he was really good. After a while, Bart got rid of many of the good construction people, the ones that knew what they were doing, and he hired some illegals because they were a lot cheaper.
So
He
this
kept
is safe,
Mark
but
and
this is one of the dirty secrets on the political side of things, is that there are people maybe on the Republican side who say, yeah, we kind of want illegal immigrants because they make everything cheaper.
yes,
right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. They didn't have to pay them much at all. Anyway, the people that he hired, they were Hispanics and they could not speak English. I doubt that they understood English. And when the police came to get a statement from him after the accident or death, I won't call it an accident, they couldn't write their statements in English. So anyway, they were erecting a huge wall for a dental complex that they were building. And the wall weighed 2,000 pounds. And Joe Ross, the job foreman, was on the crane on the ground outside of the building site. And he had a large strap hooked to the wall. And that strap was also hooked to an eye bolt. And normally they put 2 eye bolts in the top of the wall as they're lifting the wall up. And then the construction workers are underneath the wall, kind of pushing it also. And then once the wall is erect and straight up and down, they pound it and nail it into place. Well, they sent, Joe Ross sent one of the illegals to Home Depot to get an eye bolt to put in that wall. And he got an eye bolt that was rated for 90 pounds, and the wall was a 2,000-pound wall.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, so he put that in the wall. And then Joe Ross, in his statement after the death, he told everybody that normally he always, in a wall that size, has 2 eye bolts put in. This time there was just 1 eye bolt. And when he looked up there and saw that, everybody was ready to go. So he just figured, hey, we'll just go with it this time. So he didn't pay any attention to that. He didn't, do his checks and balances. Could have been drunk. Who knows? Nobody bothered to check. But anyway, they started lifting the wall, and the eye bolt came undone, and the strap snapped, and the wall fell on my son. And, many times when I would talk to Mark about construction, he'd say, the thing that really worries me the most, Mom, are the walls. He says, I always, when I'm, helping to get the wall pushed up, he says, I always am close to a window because, of course, that's open. It's just an open space. He said, I'm always kind of close to a window, and I know if I hear a snap of that wall go, I'm going to get to the window really quick so that, the wall will crash down around me, but not on me.
Right.
So I know that's been a fear of his. Well, anyway, he wasn't able to do that. So the wall fell on top of him, and he's 6'11", and the wall bent him over to where his head was between his 2 feet.
Oh, my goodness.
And yeah, he laid underneath that wall dying. And some people told me that he died instantly, that he really didn't suffer. The labor and industry investigator who really worked with me, he told me, he said, Karen, he said, your son didn't die fast. He said it was a very tragic, horrific death. And then later I got the autopsy report, and I saw all the things that had happened to him. And I guess he was, he knew his little son was going to be born any day. And he was begging them to get that wall off. Well, it was too heavy. They couldn't lift it. So he died under the wall.
Goodness.
And it just, so when the police came and they did the investigation, they didn't bother to check whether the people involved were illegal. They didn't bother to check Joe Ross to see if he had been drinking. He was a known alcoholic. He had one of those, I don't know what you call them, but it's something that you have on your vehicle steering wheel that you have to breathe into before you can drive.
Right.
Breathalyzer.
And yeah, okay. Well, they didn't check that. They didn't check to see if anyone there had been on drugs. They just talked to the owner, I guess, and decided that it evidently was an accident. So that was it. Well,
do you believe that this is a cover-up of illegal employment practices by that company to employ illegal alien immigrants who shouldn't even be here? Is that what you think?
I think it's a cover-up for all illegals at work in our country, because the labor and industry man told me when I talked to him, one of the corporate officers from labor and industry called me personally. And he says, Karen, I will deny this if you tell anyone, you know, who I am and what I'm telling you. But he said, you have no idea what's going on in this country. And he said, you need to just back away and let this go. Now, this was back in 2005.
Let what
The
go?
accident?
Yeah. So, and when I asked them, I said, well, did you report the fact that it was illegals that were involved in the accident? And the answer was, no, we can't do that because it's called profiling.
Are you serious?
Okay. So
I'll tell you.
The state does not want to admit that they're illegal immigrants, that illegal working there. They're trying to cover up the illegal employment.
Oh, yeah. Sure. Yeah. And when I called the police officer, well, first of all, right after that first year, I didn't do anything other than talk to the investigator. Mm-hmm. They didn't shut his company down. They closed the company. They closed everything for a month while they did a complete investigation for a month. Then they opened it back up and they finished the dental clinic. And then I asked them if they would shut the company down, what were they going to do? And they said, well, if we shut it down, he says, all he'll do is walk away and start up a new company under a different name. So nothing happened to him.
So that had been a practice in the state of Washington, that this official from the Department of Labor and Industries said that, and if by saying that, he's actually admitting that that's a common practice, which they don't.
Washington is turning a blind eye to a flagrant violation of its labor standards. In other words.
Oh, yes. Well, Washington State is just pathetic. I mean, look at the governor, look at the representatives there. Back then, I called Kathy McMorris, who was a representative, and I talked to her, and she did think it was terrible, and she said, I will do whatever I can to try to get some help. And nothing happened. I contacted Kathy Murray. Nothing happened. Kathy McMorris. Yeah.
The senator, Murray is senator.
Yes.
Yeah.
Patty Murray. Nothing happened. Didn't even get any callbacks. So, it really, and now Seattle is a sanctuary city, has been for a long time, which, as far as I'm concerned, that should be illegal right there, because it's illegal to harbor and aid and abet illegals. And what does a sanctuary city do?
Exactly that.
So, breaking the federal law.
Yeah.
And that's why we're engaged right now in a civil war. This is the second civil war we're in. It's the battle for the border. That's what's going on. That's why Trump is attempting to at least put a true barrier on the border and then start deporting people, because we're in it. We have we already know the 16 states that have declared that they are they're like the southern states during the Civil War, the first Civil War. These are the 16 states of the battle war, over the wall. Yeah. That's what they want. Cheap labor. They want illegal voters coming in so that they can eventually have amnesty and change the culture and change the entire makeup of our electorate. That's what they want.
Well, and here's another thing that's kind of slipping through the back door also. They want all the voters. They want all the voters they can get. and they let illegals vote. They voted in the last election, and that's why some of the idiots that we have in office now got in there. I think that whole election should have been called. But anyway,
Yeah.
they not only want all the voters, they want people in this country that they have to house and feed, give them food stamps, give them free
To
medical.
expand the
Yeah.
socialist network. That's what they want.
Exactly.
Here,
You know, here's a favorite statement that I really believe, and I spread it around. A government that owns you, a government that feeds and takes care of you and supports you, owns you. And that's exactly what ends up being communism, really. And what are they going after now but our guns? So the Democratic Party has changed. It's not like it used to be. It is now socialist, and they're fighting for their lives. And it's going to get a lot worse than it is right now, because they're fighting for control of this country. And that's how they get it, is all the illegals.
Right. Karen, what happened to this illegal alien who was responsible for your son's death? We talked before that negligent homicide charges were not pursued by the police. What happened to him?
No. He just left, I guess. I don't know. He may have even stayed there and worked. I never did find out, because what I started to say, about a year after this, that year, our family was just in shock, and we had to deal with it. And I didn't do anything. I just kind of let it go until about a year later, I started realizing, this is wrong. And I got on the internet and I started writing letters, and I started contacting people, and I started going on radio stations. And that's when I really started fighting. And that's when I realized, I called ICE out of Seattle, and I asked them if they went after him or did anything, or could they do it now? And they said, no, unfortunately, we are only allowed to go after large companies that hire illegals. And the company your son worked for wasn't one that we would have the funds or the money to go after. They won't let us do it. And I said, even with a death? And he says, I know. He says, you don't know how it makes me feel to have to tell you that. But he said,
there are finite resources.
We did check.
Government has finite resources, and so they only want to go after the big fish. They can't afford it. They can't afford to go after everything. And so these smaller companies can operate with impunity. They can hire illegal immigrants, undocumented workers, however you want to categorize them, invaders, and they can pay them. It's double victimology. What happens is they victimize these people who are coming across the border. Yes, there are really, as the president would say, bad hombres. They are drug runners. They are bad guys who are coming across. There are also desperate families who are from countries who they do really want a better life. They're not getting in line. They should get in line. They should apply for citizenship. They should do it regularly, but they're desperate. And what these employers do is they're preying on them. They're victims too, saying, okay, come on in, we'll give you a job. We're not going to pay you $35 an hour. For you, maybe 10. If you're nice, and you get me my coffee at the end of the day, honey, that kind of thing. They're abusing these people because they're poor. So that's the first abuse. And then because they're already here, and because they're not trained, they are abusing the system, the entire, the taxpayers. And also the third is they're abusing because they're using untrained, unskilled, illegal immigrants who cannot be held accountable. They're profiting from it, and they're cutting corners. They're saving all the money, and they don't even have to adhere to the same, I guess, construction standards. In this case, they just say, we don't even matter. So they're victimizing. It's ironic to me, if American companies, if every American citizen simply obeyed the law, there wouldn't be a magnet to bring people here illegally in the first place. Right?
Exactly.
So this company has victimized you, victimized the state, victimized even the immigrants that they're profiting off of, because they're not following the law. The law, and the state itself doesn't want to follow its own law. They don't want, we're becoming a lawless country. No, why do we have all these laws on the books? Why do we have legislatures just sitting in session for months at a time, inventing new laws, passing them, voting on them, debating them, if we're not going to enforce them? And if we're going to handcuff ICE, and if we're going to handcuff local enforcement agencies, well, we don't have enough money. This is all dog and pony show to spread government money around. There's no point for these laws if you're not going to enforce them. Sorry,
well, I'll tell you,
I just went off, but I mean, I look at this
and people in control, and the government for we the people is no longer, and this corporation is getting away with everything, and they're wanting the illegals to help build their corporation stronger.
Right.
And it's just I called the police department after I finally got my wits about me about a year later, and well, no, actually it wasn't that far that I called the police department that long. And I talked to one of the police officers, and the commander. His name was Steve Neal, I believe. And I talked to him, and I told him, I said, I would really like to file negligent homicide charges. Oh, well, you can't do that. He said it was an accident. And I said, no, listen. I said, I realize that he wasn't murdered outright, but I said, job foreman did not do his job. That's negligent homicide. And I said, the boss, the owner of the corporation, hired these people, or the company hired these people, knowing that they didn't understand English. In a construction company, a very dangerous place to work. I said, that's negligent homicide. And I said, I want those files charged. Well, no, we can't do that, because he said, it wasn't the illegal that killed your son, it was the wall. It's a good thing.
An SUV kills people, but not the driver, right?
Well, yeah, like I told him, I says, he made a comment about a gun. He said, he said that you had a gun in your house and a child got a hold of the gun and he shot someone or killed himself, he said you could be charged with, negligent homicide or negligent homicide. Yeah. Because he said you had the gun and the child was killed. And I said, okay, no, you can't do that. Because I said, realistically, it wouldn't have been me that killed the child. It would have been the bullet.
Right.
And he didn't say a word, not a damn word.
Well, yeah, how can he? Because his logic is unfounded. It's illogical. It's not the wall. The wall didn't kill anybody. That was a bunch of concrete that came crashing down for a reason. And unless you can say it was an act of God, like a strike of lightning or something, of course it wasn't. But he just didn't want you to bother. In other words, because that meant a lot more people.
Yeah. Well, the whole system was backing and supporting and behind. No one was there to help us.
Right.
No one.
Well, Karen, how did you get
involved? They were all there to help families.
How did you get involved with the Angel families? What brought you to them?
Actually, Ruthie Hendricks. She's got a Facebook website. And she was the first radio interview that I had. This was years ago. And she contacted me back in October of this month and told me to contact Sabine. And she said, she's an angel mom. And she says, I would really like for you to talk to her. So we got on the phone and talked. And that's how I got involved with the angel moms. I didn't even know there was such a thing as angel moms. And then she invited me to go to Washington, D.C. And gosh, Sabine, what a sweetheart, that little gal. She's talked to the president. She's met with him. She's gone on Fox News and been with Hannity. And, and she keeps saying, you come with us. And I would love to go talk to the president. I would love to, but I'm too far away. I just don't have the energy to make the trip and try to connect with all the planes and get hotel rooms. And it's too much for me right now. Right. I can't deal with that. So the best thing I can do is just try to, spread the word by radio, word of mouth, whatever I can do, just from here. And I still have my kids. I mean, we're still, my son is, and he still has a hard time with his brother's death. He still gets suicidal occasionally, and we really have to rally for that and be here for that. So, it's just, and Christmas, we go through the motions, but it'll never be the same, ever.
Of course not.
It just,
what do you think? What do you think about the most recent bill that's just been passed?
Well, I have not truthfully read the bill. If there's anything in there that is supporting illegals,
you can read it. That's Nancy.
Yeah. kind of like old Pelosi said to us. Just sign it and then read it. Yeah, we didn't. We got stuck on that one, didn't we?
But I think it only. It gives only. It gives him a fraction of what he wanted for the wall, and now he's having to declare a national emergency to try to find the rest of the money that he wants to construct a barrier.
Well, frankly, I anything he can do to get that barrier up, because we need it. We desperately need it. And what I'm concerned about is what's going on up north. We know for a fact that people are coming in over the Canadian border up north here. The whole area is full of them. Here's another thing I was going to say. How many times have you heard that this company, the United States of America, will be taken from within? Well, that's another reason they want all these illegals in here and everybody else and all the gangs and everything else. When the time comes, they're taking us over from within our own country. And the only way they're allowed to do that or able to do that is because the wall's not there, and they're just coming in. Hundreds, thousands of them are coming into our country and hiding.
Right.
You don't know where they're at.
They're invaders. We are being invaded.
Yes.
Being peacefully invaded, and then they become cultural sleeper cells. They're not terrorists.
Yeah, exactly. No, some of them are. Some of them are terrorists.
But for the vast majority, they are cultural. They are cultural implants, so that they can change the culture of America away from American exceptionalism, away from individual rights, toward a more collective socialist. Steve for all. Everybody gets amnesty. We're all one big family. Let's import some more family members. Amnesty. That's what we keep doing over and over and over again. And that these cultural implants are changing the unique. It's changing what our culture as America is and was and will be.
Right.
That's drastically changing.
That's the threat. The threat is.
Our Constitution, we just don't have a Constitution anymore. None of the government goes by our Constitution. And look at the supposedly law that they passed in Washington State about the guns. It's ridiculous.
What did they
all
pass?
of us.
I don't know. What was it?
They passed this gun law thing in this last election, and who all voted for it was all the people over in Seattle, all the sanctuary people. But anyway, it's so involved, and so you just wouldn't believe it. You'd have to read the whole thing. I can't even remember it all, but it tells you that you cannot have guns without if you have guns, even though you're a responsible gun owner, you have to keep your guns in a safe or locked away. Well, what happens if somebody comes into my house and I've got to go to my safe to get my gun out? Give me a break.
Yeah, it's like, Karen, what you got to do is, put your hand up, tell that gunman to stop, give you a moment, take a breather, have a sandwich, go get your gun, and then come back and then, reconvene.
Well, and the really scary thing is that they're saying that officers can come to our door. Now, tell me if this doesn't sound like a foreign country. Germany, maybe? Officers can come to our door at any time that they suspect that we have guns that are not locked up, and they can come in and check and see. And if we have any guns that they find that aren't locked up, we are in bad trouble. And if someone breaks into my house and gets a hold of a gun and goes and uses it and causes a crime,
you're responsible. You're responsible.
Yeah, then I'm responsible. Excuse me, they broke into my house. But what they're trying to do is get our guns. That's the last thing they can do before we go into communism.
Isn't it interesting, though?
And
I mean,
they have total control.
There's an interesting argument to be made. Your guns are locked up in your house, are they not? Aren't you required to have your guns in a locked, state and secured, right? If all of your doors to your house are locked, are your guns not secure?
Mm-hmm.
You see, but that's why it doesn't make sense if what you're saying is the state of the law.
Good point.
If that breaking into a house somehow doesn't, it's not the equivalent of breaking into the safe of the gun. You can't be sitting there at your, kitchen table, having a cup of coffee and cleaning your Luger. You can't be doing that, because if the bad guy breaks through your, hey, why not? I got my cup of coffee here. Why, I'll just start polishing my gun. My shotguns. I'm waiting for my daughter to get back from a date, right? And I'm sitting inside my kitchen. If a bad guy breaks in through a lock, is your house not a giant gun safe? Is it not? I guess
nope.
not.
Nope.
You're right. If that's
not
the
according to them.
Haven't read it. I don't know exactly which one you're talking about, but then what they are doing is they are criminalizing regular Americans who've done nothing wrong. And they're not
they've been doing that for quite a
laws
while.
against the immigrants who are breaking the laws in the first place. They're turning us into criminals for having guns and having them locked in our home. We're criminals, but the ones who are breaking into our country and invading our country, those aren't prosecuted. You're right.
Well, I really believe, and Sabine agrees with me, and so does Ruthie, that what they ought to do down on the border is put all of us angel families down there, and we would stop this illegal immigration coming into our country.
Yeah, you would. Yeah, I hear you on that one. Just get a mother's militia. We just need a battalion. That's all. A mother's militia.
I won't tell you. I actually had one going a few years back, but I won't tell you what we called it, and I won't tell you how we advertised it.
Tell us.
Yeah, a little bit later. One thing I want to ask you about, Karen, is why do you think that the Democrats are open border supporters, and why they think that the deaths of innocents like your son and others, it's not really a national emergency?
Well, because like I said earlier, they're fighting for their lives right now, because Trump's in there and he's cleaning ass, pardon my language, and they don't like it. So they're doing whatever they can to maintain control. That's what it's all about. All the illegals they have coming over the border are all people on their side. They get their votes to stay in office. They get them to take care of. And as long as they're taking care of all these illegals with our money, then the illegals will fight for them. They'll defend the Democrats because, and then once you give people everything, you own them. You can always take it away.
Right, exactly. So it's important.
So they're starting, as far as I'm concerned, the Democrats today, the party today is forming, trying to form communism here in our country. I really believe that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been doing this for 40, 50 years. I mean, that's the irony of all of this.
Yeah.
They're just getting...
Well, this is what the labor and industry guy told me when he said, Karen, you have no idea what's really going on in this country. Well, now I do. I do now. Look how long it took.
Yeah. What's interesting, too, is that the president, in his speech to Congress, the State of the Union, he said that this is not a socialism country. It will never be a socialism country. And he laid down the gauntlet, which will be an issue in the 2020 elections, about socialism, because we got about, of the 11 or 12 now that have announced, about 8 or 9 of them have at least backing some aspect of socialism, if not embracing it in its totality in 2020 in terms of the Democrats.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And something else, I almost forgot, but I wanted to get this in. Mm-hmm. You know who else is to blame for all of this? The colleges and the schools. The colleges aren't teaching history. They're not teaching, and the schools aren't teaching history. It's all liberal. And they graduate from college, and like that, I call her occasional Cortez. They graduate from college and they're out there with her ideas about this
Yeah.
new green thing that she wants. You know,
Yeah.
they're idiots in college teaching these people.
High school too. Yeah, and actually, if you think about it, high school all the way down to elementary school, because you have teachers who are teaching social studies, and it's like socialist studies instead. Actually, I'm just
Yeah, and they've been allowed to tear down our statues. Those people should have been, I think, shot on the spot. But you know, you just don't go tear statues down. That's our
Well,
history.
there's some good news though, because over in Russia there are people who are defacing the statue of Stalin. So there, you know, people there's you know there's people are catching on. We know what's going on. I just don't think that the majority of Americans are being taken in by this. I think they see angel moms and angel families, and they know what's going on. I think they're watching the
I
media.
hope so.
The media there is no such thing as an objective media anymore. They're lying.
Yeah.
I mean, just the way that the media went after the Covington kids, the young man who had to stand there while he was being attacked, assaulted by Nathan Phillips and the Black Israelites. We're seeing that. We're also seeing what's happening with illegal immigration. We're seeing it all, and we're watching all of it. And no, we don't have the voice of the media. I call them the make-believe media because they make it up and then they make you believe it.
Yeah.
But you know what? There's a lot of people who are paying attention. I don't think they're being fooled by this at all. Not in the least. I think everybody's watching.
I hope so. I hope so, because I see people like, and the way they think and the way they're trying to get into our government, or like I said, it's now a corporation as far as I'm concerned. It's not a government for we the people anymore. And it just, it's really scary. It's really scary. And somehow they all got in there. I suppose it's because the illegals voted for them and that's how they did it. But that should have been stopped. It just, I don't know how many people are smart enough to see what's going on. The people that are in college and
we know at least 60 million of them are.
But the new way that the Democrat Party is winning elections, because the illegals who are still here illegally and haven't gotten voting rights yet, they can't vote. So what they're doing is they're harvesting votes, and they're going to the cemeteries. Of course, stay woke. Go get them at the cemeteries. But what they're doing is they are flooding. After the fact elections, they are then finding provisional ballots. This is the epidemic. They're literally just concocting ballots at this point. That is what they're doing, and I believe that's their plan for the 2020 election. They're going to just invent ballots. They need kind of like a ballot machine to just fill out, get people to get on the absentee ballot rolls, all of these things, because they're not winning in a valid way. They're having to cheat, and they're inventing votes.
Well, if they get away with it, they'll do that. But I hired a private investigator to look into my son Mark's Social Security number, and I swore up and down that if somebody was using my son's Social Security number, and I found out that it was an illegal, God help him. I just
but he wouldn't give you a real address anyway. How do you find these people? He's already if there are illegals that are taking over identity, because identity theft is a huge crime.
Oh yeah.
But you know what? Unless you're just Smollett and you're stupid enough to write a check to your Nigerian friends, which he did. I mean, that's a special kind of stupid. Unless you're that dumb, you're going to say, "Oh yes, I'm an illegal immigrant and I live at this address. Come get me." They're not doing that. They're hard to find.
The man who put the wrong eye bolt in that killed my son.
Yeah.
I looked up. I followed through and found out that he was one of 17 names on the same Social Security number. Yep. Now you tell me the police didn't know, the job owner didn't know that these guys were illegal.
Oh yeah, he knew.
They don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care.
No. And you know what?
No.
Here's the thing you mentioned earlier, Karen, is that if they know that they're not going to go after a company that small as it was told to you, then he knows he can get away with it all day long. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a form of under the table. It's like, any kind of under the table work. And there's plenty of people willing to do it and plenty of people willing to pay for it because
Yeah.
frankly, and this all gets back down to the economic policy of the United States, which is
And
if you keep taxing people to death, they will find ways around it.
Yep.
right.
And
But
that's
Yep.
also part of all of this. We make it very, very hard to accumulate wealth. We make taxation, it's very difficult. I'm glad that Trump has started, reducing some of the taxes, but you're putting all of these, and he's reduced a lot of the regulations, but businesses are in business to make money. They want to employ people.
Yeah.
They want to hire people. If you're going to make it impossible for them to obey the laws and make a profit, then you are indirectly encouraging lawlessness. And we're not enforcing border laws. We're not enforcing e-verify. We don't have any of those things in place. All we have to do, look, we actually, I 100% support the wall. We need a wall, absolutely, a barrier. We need it on both sides of the north and the south. We need
a working wall.
a working wall. We
wall.
don't actually, you know what? We don't actually need it if we enforced all of the laws on their books. And if we would shut down a business who is caught employing illegal immigrants, and we fine them per day for each violation. If we shut down the unions if we just shut it down and said, oh, we're just confiscating, the money from your illegal activities, bam, just shut it down.
Yeah.
If we would police ourselves, anybody who's in a position of a business, if we are ourselves hiring illegal immigrants, well, that we're causing it. We're the ones bringing the drugs over. We're the ones bringing the illegal immigrants, invaders over.
Right.
We have to police ourselves,
and that's what
this country is built on, is individual rights and individual morality. We are losing our morality. That's part of our problem.
Oh, definitely. And I didn't understand why they didn't go after all these people, because of the fact that what he was doing was illegal. First of all, he was aiding and abetting and harboring an illegal. That was illegal right there. You're not allowed to do that. But he got away with it. And because he got away with it, somebody died. And it just, it just makes me so mad. I get so fired up every time I think about it. And I sit and I watch Pelosi. It's probably a good thing that I don't have the energy to go back there, because when they were standing in that area, that room, trying to get her to come out of her office, it's probably a good thing I wasn't there.
Yeah, well, you know what? I think America, as Susan was saying, is waking up, and now because of the effort of the president and angel moms and families, they're paying more attention. What, in conclusion, Karen, what do you feel that our audience can do in helping to bring more attention to angel moms and dads and families, and what they can do to help?
Oh, I wish that, first of all, I would love everybody that agrees with us to contact your representatives. Contact the governor of your states. Tell them you do not want sanctuary cities and you don't want illegals allowed to work in the job site. Now, the ones that come through, the people that come through and they get legal green cards, like the ones we have here that work in the orchards, they are hard workers and they're good people. But the problem is, once the orchard season's over, they're supposed to turn in their green cards and go back home. Well, maybe some of them do. Most of them just kind of filter out into the countryside, and now they're here. They don't, they don't go back. So you need to contact your representatives, contact your governors. Tell them that you better stand up and get rid of the illegals in this country, because they're taking over, and stand up and support the wall. And if you don't, you're not going to get voted in next time. Just start threatening them. Tell them you're not going to get voted in.
Stay woke, according to Susan.
Yeah, maybe it's time to start sitting in on their lawns, on the governor's lawn. Maybe it's time we started, peacefully protesting in front of all of these different people's homes. Our elected representatives.
Oh boy, wouldn't that be fun? Yeah, I agree. This has to happen, but it has to happen on a national basis. You can't just have 2 or 3 people go to one person's house and stand there for a day or so. You really need to make phone calls, flood the lines, contact the people, go to the offices, stand outside the offices, and make it loud and clear and tell them, you're not going to get voted in. We aren't going to vote for you. You need to work for we the people.
I'm not even you know what? I don't think they care because they have their own pet groups. You know, the thing that I think will only get their attention are lawsuits, like what we're starting to see with the young man Sandman, who he now has a lawyer who is suing the Washington Post for $250 million for the hoax that they perpetrated when Nathan Phillips, the American Indian activist, attacked this young boy, the Covington kid, and going after him. I think the only thing that's going to matter is lawsuits, bringing class action lawsuits whenever possible, and suing these people and taking away their money and their power. I don't know what else, unless the judiciary stands up. We've got a corrupt judiciary too. I mean, unless we start the law, and there's two ways to do it. There's either criminal enforcement, and if we're not going to do that, then there's civil enforcement. That's the only way that we citizens
do it, totally.
is with citizen action, because I don't think talking to a liberal Democrat in office, he'll probably be polite, but although I don't even know if they would, most of the times I think they would just go, what? Why should I listen to you?
Well, they hide behind the wall. They hide behind their wall.
They do. They hide behind their own walls, which we built for them with our money.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, I like the way you think. I wish you lived closer.
It's 50. Go up to Washington.
People don't want me living here in the People's Republic of California. I think they'd like me to move.
Oh, yeah, it's really gotten out of control, and the only way it's going to get back in control is if we really stand by and help our president, because God bless him, he's doing everything he can, and if he can't, then we need to step in and take over.
Well,
he's got some good ones.
We have some good guys.
But,
Jim Jordan, Freedom Caucus.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So it's not.
I agree on that.
But yeah, absolutely. It's our job, you see. And until we stand up and insist on our rights and our Constitution, the rest of these people, they don't recognize that they're our employees. They serve at our pleasure. They have, golden parachute. They have the medical health care. Everything that they have is from us. And they don't listen to us because we don't fire.
And that's another thing. I don't think they should get paid. I think they should start cutting their pay because they aren't doing their job. They're not supporting we the people. They're supporting the illegals and their agenda. So they shouldn't get paid.
Good idea. I like it, Karen.
I like it.
Bet a lot of them would quit.
Well, that would help us in America. So anyway, Karen, thank you so much for joining us on American Exceptional today. We look forward to having you back. And this has been one of many issues that Susan and I focus on. This is a very crucial one and a very important one because real people with real losses are suffering. And America needs to be aware of it, stand up for you guys, but also stand up for this nation and protect the security that you are fighting for to help America become more secure. So, Karen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank both of you for the job you're doing.
Thank you. God bless you, and God bless America.
God bless America.
Us is pedaling the bike one way and one of us is pedaling it the other way.
Hey there. Yeah. Yes, you're right, Mayor. We'll hold on and after we do these learn-ins with our wonderful Theory. Hey, Theory. We were just planning and what we were going to do with the editors and such. So we'll carry that on after. What exciting things do you have for us?
Well, my Gmail is the same. I never changed any of the login credentials for my Gmail for my new Right Editor copy Gmail. It's in our DM and it's pinned. So, well, for New Right Network stuff.
You tell me. I mean, what do we do? Okay. Okay.
Okay, so you need which of my Gmail accounts do you need? You want my personal one or? Oh, well, I I open all of them. All I use them all both all the time. Where did she go?
Oh, geez. Thanks. That's better, huh? Oh, geez. So, yeah, I'm thinking that's interesting. So, I know right now I have Gmail that I basically use for all our stuff, and then apparently I have a Gmail for NRN with so like I'm a delegate on something, so I have something there. Is that what you're talking about? Doing a delegation or owning it? Well, I guess we're gonna have to. I mean, that's what I think we should. Let's think about the structure. So Mary, do we want to have that as um like submissions, or is it going to be anything pertaining to journalism going in there? I mean, what is the use and the function right now for the editor one? Like, can we both be in on it, or
I use my New Right Editor copy email to correspond with people I'm interviewing.
there. So I thought you had I mean, how come we're going to have an editor meeting without you? So, okay, we'll get back to that in a sec. Theory's back.
Hi, Theory Doll.
So I don't know if you're back with us. We came to a conclusion. Came to a decision. Well, her picture's here. Oh, is that? Aren't we great? Oh, yeah. Yeah. So we were talking and I've decided we'll taking over the existing editor one sounds like a good way to go. So it sounds official and
Yeah, I use my New Right Network editor copy Gmail account every day, all the time. Okay. Yeah, sounds good to me.
yeah, we're good. We're good.
He's probably extremely busy. Okay.